Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the Coach Launch podcast today. So good to have you here.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing. Welcome back, guys, to the Coach Launch podcast, the show for business owners and entrepreneurs who are serious about. I'm your host, Matthew White, and today's guest is a pioneer who spent 27 years cracking a code that most business leaders don't even know exists. Over the last 3 decades, he's gone from being a voice of a blue dog on a kids' website show, which reached more than 5 million visits a month, to building a company that now tracks 73 million brand profiles across what he calls the Algorithmic Trinity. He is a Forbes Business Council member and an international speaker and holds 16 patents. But here's the real issue he's uncovered right now. 7 AI systems, Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, and Alexa, are talking to your prospects 24 hours a day. They're either closing deals for you, sending customers straight to your competitors, and most business owners have never even checked that this is happening. His superpower is this. He can show you exactly what AI is saying about your brand right now, why it's saying it, and how to change that conversation. This conversation is about taking control of your digital presence before your competitors do. Jason Barnard, welcome to the Coach Launch podcast. Are you ready to go?
I am, Matthew. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So let's take a little bit of a journey back to your beginnings. And there's a bit going on, but how did you get to where you are today?
The story is quite long, so we'll try and keep it short so we can get the meat and potatoes of this and get the information out there so people can manage their brand on Google and AI. I started way back in the 90s. I joined a punk folk group in Paris. I was in Liverpool, moved to Paris, joined a punk folk group, started a record company called WTPL, and had a career in music. Then when that ended, I created a company to make cartoons for kids, which is the one you talked about earlier on. I was a blue dog, my ex-wife was a yellow koala, and we entertained children across the world. 5 million visits a month, 1 billion page views in 2007.
Wow.
And that was a huge success, and it was a lot of fun. It was an edtech platform. We won awards for the best edtech platform. We were competing with the BBC. We made a TV series that went on Disney. And then I pivoted to digital marketing. And that was when I discovered that how Google represented me was phenomenally important to my career. Because when you searched on Google in 2012, Google said Jason Barnard is the voice of a cartoon blue dog. I lost deals because of that. And one deal in particular, I lost a $100,000 deal, and I was sitting on the train on the way back having lost the deal, and I thought, what can I do to solve this problem? So I educated Google like it was a child. I thought, okay, Google is a child. It's misunderstood, or it's misrepresenting me in terms of what I want to be represented for. So it was representing me as a cartoon blue dog, which is fine because I was. But that was because the weight of evidence for the cartoon blue dog was so heavy. And what I did was change its perspective. So it stopped saying he's a cartoon blue dog and started saying he's an authoritative digital marketer who used to be a blue dog. And I found that, number one, it made me a lot of money because all of the people checking me out before signing a deal with me suddenly saw this incredibly authoritative digital marketer, and the deal was much more easy to sign for me from there on in. And I realized it's a service that everybody needs. Companies, people, products. It's universal. And it's a universal problem that most people aren't really thinking about. And the thing about it is all of the people searching my name or your company name are bottom of the funnel. It's the moment they decide, do I sign with this company? Do I sign with this person or not? And if Google says you're brilliant, they'll sign. And if it says you're rubbish, they won't. If ChatGPT says Jason Barnard is a world authority on digital brand intelligence, which it does, you're going to sign with me. If it says I'm not sure who he is, or he says that he's good at digital marketing, it seeds doubt in your mind and you might lose the deal.
So the context here is so interesting that perception is so important in our world and in industry, and perception can change the game on deals, like you said, multiple times. And a lot of times people don't even know what's on their Google. If I searched that person's name what's going to come up for them. And me thinking and having this discussion with you now, I was wondering what comes up if we're searching myself even, right? And that is so important and so true. So I can understand right now, it's the knowing and not knowing, right? But bringing this to the forefront, knowing and understanding that, okay, wait a minute, because people they do that, right? They'll go, so they see an ad of something that you're doing, and then they're like, oh, I want to Google further, or I want to find out more, or they're trying to find out a problem and something comes up in ChatGPT, and it's either going to make or break that first interaction or second interaction or any interactions that happen for that matter. And so can these perceptions be manipulated?
Manipulated is one way of saying it. Yes is the answer. You can get them to say what you want them to say, which is your narrative. I would never help anybody to lie. The idea is, and what I find interesting with our clients is they come to us and you say, okay, what do you want them to say? And a lot of people don't know. Companies have their brand persona, what do you call it, Bible?
Yeah.
And that's relatively easy because then we can just say, okay, this is what you want the machines to say, and we can get the machines to say this. For a person, they often come and say, I'm not 100% sure, or they say something, you say, that doesn't look to me like who you need to be in order to succeed. And so we have a conversation about what can we take from your world and your life to help serve your business today as a business owner, help prepare you for your career pivot in the future that you're going to have, and prepare your legacy for when you retire or when you pass away. And it's a very interesting conversation, which is quite existential. At Kalicube, the Kalicube process, which is what we call this, is how you manage how the AI and Google understand you and represent you. And it works for companies and it works for people. I prefer working with people. So we share it all for free on the website, kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides. You can download it, you can do it yourself. Because what I find most interesting is helping people who are ambitious, who want to be out there, who want to have their personal brand drive their business or drive their career and move forwards, using AI and Google as a big part of the motor for that.
So what's interesting, I just want to take a step back there, because you're talking about I was asking the question about can it be manipulated. Obviously there's ethics and guidelines that you have in your process for doing this. And obviously if some people, like for instance, you want your brand to say a certain thing. Like you had the blue dog issue, right? And this was harming your brand or harming your personal brand. And so you needed to change that whole direction perspective. Like how easy was that to do? Did it take you months, weeks, years?
It took me a few months because I'm an expert or I was already an expert in SEO. So SEO, search engine optimization, is part of the job. So if you know about search engine optimization, it's a little bit like that because it uses some of the basic strategies from SEO. And I say basic, not meaning that we're using basic strategies from SEO. I'm saying SEO is very basic. So everything you know about SEO is about a third of what you need to know. So that's scary.
Interesting.
But the positive thing is people who do SEO make it seem much more complicated than it really is. So if you have an SEO agency who's telling you, it's really complicated, all these algorithms, it's not true. What you need to do is actually very simple. The algorithms are very complicated, I agree. But what you need to do is very simple. It's laborious, it's a lot of effort. Holding it all together is very difficult. You need to do an awful lot of work, but it isn't fundamentally difficult. I can explain it in less than a minute. I was wondering if you'd take me up on that. So you can maybe put the clock on. As a person, you need a website. That's the first thing you need to do. Create a website that is what we call the entity home. It's where Google and AI come and look for information about you from you so they know what your story is. You state your story very clearly on that website, exactly what you want them to say. You then go around the web, find every reference to you and make sure that it reflects the same story. You then link from the entity home out to all the resources that talk about you, and from those resources back to your entity home if you can, every single time. The machine then goes round in circles like this, seeing the same message over and over again in the infinite loop of self-corroboration. Job done. That was about a minute.
There seems like a lot that goes into that. Obviously, if we were to put that into context, so you obviously have a process that shortens down the timeline of doing this, which is what your company does, right?
In fact, you can't shorten the timeline because the algorithms have a speed of digestion that you cannot change. So the
Tell me about
algorithmic
that.
Trinity, you mentioned it earlier on, I can explain it really quickly.
Yeah.
It's three different algorithms. One is the search engine, which we all know, which is SEO. The second is a knowledge
Right.
graph, which is like a machine readable encyclopedia, like Wikipedia, but tens of thousands of times bigger, where
Wow.
Google is trying to understand the world. And the third is the LLM, which is the chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini, which has the conversation. And you need to master all three. So when I said SEO is only a third of it, that's what I mean. You've got SEO for the search engine, you've got knowledge management for the knowledge graph, and you've got conversation management for the LLM.
Right.
That sounds really complicated too, but actually they all use the same source of information, and that's the web. So if you organize your digital footprint, which is what I just described, you've mastered all three. If you master all three, they will say exactly what you want, because every single engine on earth, Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Copilot, DeepSeek, Mistral in France, all use those three technologies to drive the answers that they're giving their users about you.
So how important so the website sounds very important in this whole process.
It's centrally important, but one thing you've got to bear in mind that SEOs are going to tell you, you need lots of visits to your website. You don't. The website is actually there for the machines. If nobody ever visits your website except the machines, we don't care, because people are talking to the machines about you. If they visit your website, that's great. But if it's ChatGPT and I say, who's Matthew White? And it says, there are 5,000 million Matthew Whites in the world. Which one do you mean? And I say, oh, the one with a coach podcast. And then it will know who I mean. And then I dig down a rabbit hole and I start asking. It will tell me everything I want to know about you without me ever having to visit your website, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, your YouTube. So all of that feeds the machine, but there is no need for me as a human being to visit it, because ChatGPT has digested it all and will tell me everything in its own words. Whereas for Jason Barnard, if you do the same thing, it will tell you what I want it to tell you because I've educated it.
How would you educate it? Tell me that.
Well,
what
I said, my website tells the story.
Right.
And my website, if you visit it, jasonbarnard.com, you'll see that there are, I don't know, about 1,000 pages. I've told it every detail of my life, what I think, how I speak, what my ideas are. And it comes in, it digests it, and it's been doing it since the very beginning. So when ChatGPT launched in 2023, it already said exactly what I wanted it to say, because the way I trained Google is the same way that I'm training ChatGPT. I was 12, 14 years ahead of the curve here. DeepSeek came out. Everyone was going, oh, wow, I wonder what's happening here. I looked myself up on DeepSeek and it said exactly what I wanted again. So this is a universal solution to a universal problem that is existential, and I love that. So
I just want to understand, how does social media play into all of this?
Social media is really important in the sense that it gives the machine a good overview of who you are and how people interact with you. So as a business, you want the machines to see that social media so that it can see how you interact with your audience. The problem with social media, of course, is that it's so massive that none of the machines can digest it all. So somebody told me years ago, Google gets about 30% of Facebook. That was years ago, and that was before AI. Yeah. So let's say it gets 10% today. I don't know if that's true. It's probably most of the interaction you're having with your audience. So you need to think about what you do to get the machine to actually see that interaction.
Which is an interesting concept, because that means it's property that you own, right? It's the stuff that you own and you're in control of, because you can create the narrative around that website, your domain, your name, your brand, your awareness, and you're giving it instruction in that website, which is interesting. And you would think like that social media would play a big role in this. However, you just made a good point. Like, it's just so big and it's a skewed lot of data that could be all over the place. So what would
Here's the thing about that is, if you set up a website today and did what I just said, the AI wouldn't listen to you. You have no history. It doesn't understand you already. For me, I can do what I want. I.e., for example, on my website, there are 3 pages for social media. And every week we change the posts that we put there, and we point to the 3 most important posts. So the machines get those posts every week. So they see what's happening, and I choose what I feed to them. But that's only because they're already interested in me. You have to get them interested in you, and that's the trick when you kick off.
So how do you get them interested in you?
It's a long process. You need to do interesting things. You need to, the machines are looking for new information, new angles on information, or data. And if you can supply any of those three, you can get them interested. Yeah. So if you're just saying what everybody else is saying, they're just going to ignore you. So an old SEO tactic that I would definitely advise against is find the best article online about a specific subject and write it slightly better. The machines will look at it and say, I already know that, I don't need it, and move on. So if you're feeding them the same information all of your competitors are feeding them, they will completely ignore you.
It's about
you need to find something new.
Yeah. You can use the AI to get something new.
You can't, because AI doesn't think or create. It just spits out the most obvious answer. So AI, when it's writing for you, is writing the next most obvious word all the time, which is why, and I was looking at some AI that I've been working with, as everybody is struggling to get it to write something that sounds human. And there are so many reasons it can't write something that sounds human, one of which is it doesn't have imagination. It's not creative. It doesn't understand poetry. It can't think laterally. It can't hold very much information in its little brain. And that's something that people don't realize. They think it can hold 5,000 books in its brain at one go. It can't. Theoretically, it has them, but can it actually remember the entire thing at any one moment? No, it can't. It's accessing it by basically guessing. The predictive nature of AI is it will take a topic, let's say football, and it will say the next most obvious word. So let's say Mo Salah, player for Liverpool. He'll get a lot more mentions than some player in France because he's so represented online, and he's the most obvious, logical, probabilistic choice of a footballer to name. So using AI to be creative, and here's where this is very philosophical. You can, but you have to be creative yourself, or it won't get you anywhere. And also you need to think about which AI you're using. So now we're completely turning this around. I've got very interested in how to use AI because within Kalicube Pro, which is the platform I've built, 25 billion data points, I've built a patented system for using AI to get it to be as close as possible to the brand's persona, their lexicon, and organize their thoughts in a way that represents them correctly. So that A, they feel that it's natural, and B, the AI understands it, the AI on the other side, i.e. Google and ChatGPT. And it was hugely complicated because you're trying to constrain something that just wants to repeat back to you exactly what you've given it. And as you said, trying to get it to say something slightly different or take you to a new place is really difficult. And you might think when you're talking to it that it's taking you to a new place. It's not. It's repeating something it already knows from the rest of the world. So it's taking you to a new place, but it's not taking the world to a new place.
So interesting. I noticed, and when we do, of course, everyone's trying to get the AI to do natural language speaking, right? And I've tried, and I do it, like I've spent hours now trying to feed it a lot of my stuff, and it still comes out with, you can still notice the nuances of AI, and it's interesting. I get copy written on our social media from AI produced. And then I write, if I take that AI and I compare it, so I write or rewrite it, or you put my own spin or nuance to it, every time that when I interact with the copy, the results are way better in terms of getting social reach out there, which is really interesting. And I've tried this over and over again, trying to get the best results from AI, and still when I produce and create my own flair into it, I always get better results.
Which is a great and interesting point, and it may well be that AI recognizes AI, and that the AI on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook has been trained to look for AI and ignore it as much as possible, because they don't want that any more than we do. And what I find ironic is that the very people who are using AI to save themselves time with their marketing complain about seeing AI all the time as a user. And, you know, it's human, and I agree. I use AI to create content as well, and I don't like seeing AI come back at me. And that's where all the work I've put into my platform, Kalicube Pro, comes into play. It's saying, I want to play a better game. I want to push this further. I want to make this machine represent me and my clients in a way that we're proud of. And
is there a way to be able to create it? Is there a way? Do you have some kind of instruction or idea on how to create it so that you can get the AI to model you as a human to be able to produce better content?
Yeah, on the website, on kalicube.com, there's an article that has 11 stages of using AI. And it goes into the different things that I've learned over the last couple of years, which I've retroactively fitted to a ladder that if I'd gone through it in that order, I would have got here quicker. And a lot of it is to do with understanding how AI functions rather than how we function as human beings, what its limitations are.
Yeah.
And there are thousands of things going on. The article is quite explicit and helpful, but obviously all of the experience of going through it is a big difference. But I can give you one example, which is that AI, for using it, have personality.
Yeah.
In the sense that they act very differently depending on how they've been trained. And Google, for example, Gemini, is the most agreeable. It will say the thing that is the most obvious, that is the most commonly accepted. So it's great to be your marketer.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is very structured and it's very good for organizing things. Claude is the one that tends to be most creative, I put inverted commas around that. It will push you and it will accept your weird ideas and not remove them. If you talk to Gemini and you give it a completely original idea that nobody in the world has ever had, it will often remove it.
Oh, wow.
Whereas Claude will keep it. So you need to be aware that they have been trained differently. And people say to me, but I use Gemini and blah, 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 and it worked this way and it did this amazing structure. And you're saying, okay, I'm sure you did. And that's absolutely reasonable. It can organize, but it's not its natural state.
Yeah.
So you're basically working against its personality. And the reason that they have different personalities or different ways of functioning is because of the way they're trained. Because AI is trained with, like a dog, is you give it a treat every time it does something well. And so Google are giving Gemini treats every time it says the thing that pleases the most people, because they're trying to please 90% of the internet. So they're rewarding it every time it says something that is accepted by the majority. ChatGPT were rewarding it for things that are structured and make sense and are grounded. And Claude was rewarded for allowing the user to push it, to take things, make it more adventurous. And then if you think about the coding versions,
these are all slippery slopes, aren't they? Eventually.
Yeah. So for a coding AI, ChatGPT Codex, for example, has been rewarded for getting the code right to the nearest full stop because you have to. So you would train a coding AI very differently to one that does a conversation. And so the idea that you're going into these AIs and they're all the same and they're all super smart is completely false. And the other thing, and one really interesting thing, that when you think about how it writes in a very passive way, and that's because it's been trained on a majority of academic papers, a lot of patents, a lot of boring academic work, rather than the fun social media stuff, which is why it's so boring.
Love it. And that's so interesting to me, is that there are all these different nuances and different ways and quirks of dealing with AI. And me myself, I've used them in all different aspects. One for doing, ChatGPT gives a very different output to Claude. And I prefer doing Claude with my copy and content because, as he says, seems to be a little bit more creative, which I like out of all of them for doing the content. But let's draw a step back, because we started this conversation about the fact that you can, nowadays, we don't even go, like, I think about how rarely I even go into Google these days to search stuff, right? The most things that I search these days are restaurants and cinemas and movie times, that type of thing. And I'm pretty sure on Google Maps, probably Google Maps gets the most attention from me. Other than that, I'm using AI for most of my daily tasks these days. And you brought up a very interesting aspect of this, is that how you can now search for things and then the AI is bringing up these websites or information or content. So obviously, the importance of putting content out there is never going to change, right? We've got to still be creating unique and new creative content. But being able to stand out in the AI market in the terms of SEO, and if I'm looking for an interesting idea or a topic, the content that I have on my website is still going to fundamentally be super, super important now and in the future. Is that correct?
Yeah, fundamentally, yes. And there is one thing that is coming, which is, or has already started, but people aren't really aware, is that you can now push information into the machines. So we've lived through the last 26 years where it's all pull, where we expect Google to come and find our content or Bing to come and find our content. And that's still true. But Bing launched a thing called Index Now, and you install it on your website. In WordPress, it's a simple plugin, it's free. And every time you update your website, it sends a signal to Bing, Yandex, and a couple of others that the website has been updated and they will come and crawl it. So that's called push. Google haven't adopted that. But what they have done is they're starting to allow you to do, for example, merchant feeds. They're incredibly important. You can feed the information to the machines. And the number of ways you can feed information proactively to machines is increasing all the time. So what they're trying to do is reduce their need to go out into the web and try and figure out what's useful. And they're asking us to give them what's useful. And if anybody was on the internet in 1998, when I started, you had to submit your pages one by one to the engines. And there were about 15 or 20 engines around at the time. So we're back to those days where instead of coming out and finding the content, the machines were expecting us to give them the content in a proactive way. So you need to start thinking about that. But it still means your website is vitally important. It just needs to be incredibly well organized, and you need to build into your website the means to feed these machines. And it's all geeky and technical, but it all comes back to what you're saying. Your content needs to be interesting. You can feed it all the information you want, all the content you want. If it's not interesting, they'll just ignore it. You have to find out how to make yourself unique and interesting. And I call it making your content tasty for the algorithms. If you're tasty for the algorithms, they will pay all the attention in the world to you, and they will, I would say, advocate for you if you do it well enough.
How do you know if a content piece or any content is what you call tasty or not? What is the measurement on tasty?
There are multiple things going on. Number one is you need to be the center of your cohort. You need to be the person or the company who has the most interesting information. And that means a new angle, new information or data. If you can supply that, then they're going to keep coming back because they think you're going to give them more information, like a trained dog. Let's go back to that analogy. Once it starts doing that, then it says, okay, this person or this company is super interesting. They're helpful to me in terms of gathering more information and increasing my knowledge. So if you're filling what we call the information gap, you become interesting. If you are naturally the person or the company that your industry talks about, you're an interesting person or company. You need to be the center of attention. So that's PR, that's becoming notable, that's becoming famous. And notable, really importantly, people think about Wikipedia and think, notable, I need to be literally famous. You don't. You need to be more famous than your competitors in the niche that you're sitting in. It's all relative. You're playing a competitive game with your competitors. You're not playing a game against Johnny Depp or another famous actor, Brian Setzer, the musician from the Stray Cats, who I love. You're playing a game of notability and fame against your competition.
Yeah.
And here's something.
And that's always been there, though. That'll never change.
Yeah. I'm just reassuring people that when I say notable, I don't mean famous in the Wikipedia sense, more notable than the competition. Because it bears saying, because people lose sight of that and they get over ambitious when they don't need to. But the other really important thing is machines try to join the dots on their own, but they struggle, which is why I'm saying create your website, say what you've got to say, and then link out to all of the proof. Because then you're joining the dots for the machine. You make it easy for the machine. The more you make it easy for the machine, the more the machine will reward you. Have empathy for what the machine is trying to do. It's trying to understand who Matthew White is. With you in particular, it's going to be really struggling because there are so many that you could be and it doesn't know which is which. If you've joined the dots, it knows exactly which one you are because you've created that self-fulfilling
Yeah.
Yeah. And the infinite loop of self-corroboration is in action. And the machine says, I understand this and I'm confident in it because I keep seeing the same message every time I follow these links around the web. So
Yeah.
number one is
Interesting.
join the dots for the machine. Number two is you're effectively doing what I call claim, frame, prove, which is I claim something on my website, I frame it to my advantage, and then I link out to the third-party proof. Claim, frame, prove, and the machine goes, brilliant. Okay, he says it, and the world agrees, I'm with it. But if you don't join the dots for it, it can't do that work very effectively. It can try. And it will do it for Johnny Depp, but it won't do it for Matthew White. It wouldn't have done it for
Yeah,
Jason
right.
Barnard if Jason Barnard hadn't spent the last 14 years joining the dots for the machine.
Working on joining the dots. Yeah, yeah. So good. So tell me, what are some of the biggest mistakes and problems you see out there in people are doing or making right now when it comes to all of this? Because this is
Well,
a big change. There's a whole lot of things happening. Technology and AI is like transforming. What are the big mistakes? The big three big key mistakes people are making right now in the space?
biggest mistake is assuming the machines are just going to get it, and they don't. People sit there in their own little world thinking, I'm famous in my industry, I'm important, it's really obvious. And I go and see clients when I was a consultant years ago, and I would say, are you the best in your industry? Because that's what we're trying to prove. And they say, yeah, of course we are. I've got this email from that client, this email from that client, that email from that client. You say, Google can't see that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
effectively, you're not. None of that exists in Google's little world. You need to put that online, and you need to make sure that you're joining the dots, because the machine won't just get it on its own, or it will struggle and it won't understand the full picture. So the first mistake is to sit back and think the machine is just going to get it because AI is super smart. Second big mistake would be to focus on the latest shiny object, which right now is LLMs like ChatGPT. So there's a term in the industry called GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. And people talk about how LLMs, how they gather information, how they generate their answers, which is great.
Yeah.
But you're forgetting with that the knowledge graph and the search results with the algorithmic Trinity. So what's happened is a lot of people have moved over and said, the only thing that matters is this machine that has the conversation. So the LLM, ChatGPT, is there for the conversation. Search is there for the latest information that the LLM doesn't have in its memory, and for niche information that it doesn't simply know. And the knowledge graph, the machine readable encyclopedia, is there to fact check so it doesn't say anything stupid. If you don't have all three, you're not going to win the game. You can win it temporarily. So that's the third big mistake that I see people make, is they get fooled by agencies and consultants saying, I can get you in LLMs to be, like, let's say, leading lawyer in Melbourne for family law.
Yeah.
And they'll show you a result where if they say to an LLM, who is the leading lawyer in Melbourne for family law, it says Matthew White.
Right.
But if you say the best lawyer, it won't say Matthew White. Or if you say, which lawyer should I choose for family law? So what they're doing is using a specific turn of phrase to get you to appear for that and make you think that it's broader than it is. And with LLMs and what I call assistive engines, and I think that's important to differentiate. So the LLM is the conversation engine, the knowledge graph is the factual engine, and the search engine is the up-to-date web-wide information that feeds.
Yeah.
And I call basically those three together become an assistive engine. It's an assistant for you, which is why I talk about AI assistive engine optimization. You're optimizing for engines that assist the person. And soon it's going to be assistive agent that act for the person. So that's another story. But the fact of these assistive engines is that they are having conversations and taking people down the funnel. And it's completely opaque. You can't see what's going on inside. So you have a conversation with ChatGPT. I have no way of knowing what's in that conversation. And it's unique to you. And it will never be repeated by anybody else on earth ever again. Because it's your conversation with your machine that knows you using information from the web. So it's always adapted to you. So the idea that you can, number one, rank number one on any of these engines is foolish. The idea that you can accurately measure it is foolish. What you can do is measure the overall impact of the work you're doing And I would suggest the best way to see how well an AI is serving you is to search your name, your company name or your personal name, and then do what I call dig down the due diligence rabbit hole. Ask it every question you can think about yourself. But do it incognito. Don't do it with your version of ChatGPT, because your version of ChatGPT already knows you, and it will just do everything that it already knows. But it wouldn't tell me that. So you go incognito, you ask about yourself, and you just keep asking questions, even the most embarrassing ones, even the ones you don't want to hear the answer to, and you'll see how well it knows you. If it knows you incredibly well, you're going to be performing very well. And if it gives wrong answers, or it doesn't know the answers, or it's hedging, if it's saying, I'm not sure, but maybe, perhaps, sorry, then you're going to be struggling. So the whole of this ecosystem is based on, does it understand who you are, what you do, who you serve, and does it think you're the most credible solution in market? So after you've asked those rabbit hole due diligence questions, you then say, compare X to Y, compare X to Z, compare X to A, compare X to B. You don't want to hear the answers, but if you look at the answers, you'll understand where you sit in this universe.
It sounds like there's a lot of work involved in all of this.
14 years.
And so for smaller companies, say local companies and that, like, how relevant is this for them?
It's absolutely necessary. You can't not do it, in my opinion, but that's obviously...
Why do you say that?
Because you'll become invisible. If they don't know who you are, they can't talk about you. So them knowing who you are is table stakes.
So the first place to start then is, obviously, you said your website. What would be other places or other things that you need to consider other than, say, your website?
The first thing to do is your about page. On your about page, clearly who you are, what you do, who you serve, and why you're credible. You big yourself up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Australians are humble or fake humble. British people tend to do that. And a lot of people will say, I can't boast.
Yeah.
AI doesn't get fake humble.
Yeah,
if you think you're the bee's knees, say you're the bee's knees. But you have to be able to prove it.
Right. Yeah.
So you need to make absolute statements. Jason Barnard is the world leader in digital brand intelligence. But then you need to also link out to proof from third parties that you do not control. That is, in fact, true. So don't be afraid to make bold statements if you can prove them. If you can't prove them, don't make them.
Love it. Obviously, honesty and integrity plays a big role in all of this stuff as well.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing about it is, bear in mind that your competition is certainly not doing this. So let's say, the simplest way of saying it is, if I won a bronze medal and you won a gold medal, but I educated the algorithms about my bronze medal and how important it was, and that I'm this incredibly good athlete, and it was the World Cup in table football, and you sat on your bum thinking the AI will just get it, I'm going to win the game.
Wow.
Because I'm making the effort to educate the algorithms and you're not. And so if we bring it back to business, if I say to myself, how can I train the AI sales force to sell for me and not for Matthew White? I can tell it everything about who I am, how much people love me, how much my clients think that my services are wonderful, how I serve them once they're my client, how I can serve them, how much the press thinks I'm wonderful. If I train it to understand who I am, what I do, who I serve, and that I'm better than everybody else, and you don't, I win, you lose. Because I've trained the sales force to sell for me and not for you. So
interesting.
As long as your competition don't train this AI sales force or do it less than you do, even if they are better than you, it doesn't matter. You'll win. Because you've joined the dots and you've educated the machine. You've had empathy for the machine. You've helped the machine, and it will reward you.
Love it. So effort has to be put into this. It's non-negotiable.
Yep.
I love it.
It's a lot of work, but then success takes a lot of work, and you're putting a lot of work into your business. This is just part of your business, and it's the marketing part. And unfortunately, in a world of AI, your business is unlikely to survive if you don't do it. You talked about Google Maps earlier on. That's local business. You need to educate Google Maps about yourself.
In this day and age, when there's so much noise and so much opportunity and options out there, if you're not getting your brand well established and in front of the right eyeballs, you're you're literally just disappearing in the noise, right? And
Yep.
so it's super important, because there's companies out there that my competitors might not be doing it, but big companies are doing it. But how do smaller companies leverage this? If we think about this, right, and we say big companies are just putting all this content and information out there, how do I, as a smaller business owner or somebody as an entrepreneur, kind of leverage this or have my own little stake in this whole noisy place?
The first thing is clarity. You said noise. What cuts through the noise? It's clarity. And your advantage as a small company is you can be clear and you can be consistent. A big corporation has lots of people working for them and they push out an awful lot of noise. And the other problem big corporations have that you don't have is that their users and their audience are pushing out a lot of noise as well. And they can't control that. So you have the advantage of clarity from yourself and relative clarity of what your audience is saying about you. And those are the two things that you need to pay attention to. What are you saying and what are your audience saying? And you have much more control and much more ability to keep that consistent and clear over a long period of time. And that's what's going to win. The other advantage you have is your niche. A big corporation necessarily is going to be broad. So niche down, be clear, and make sure that your audience is giving you great feedback. And that feedback is in line with what you're saying. And that's how you win the game as a small company.
Love it. That is super powerful. I think that was one of those mic drop moments, right? Clarity. Clarity is this, it cuts through the noise like a knife through butter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm awake and alive and full of beans and clear at 7 o'clock in the morning in France.
I love it. So where do you see all of this going in the near future?
Agents. Already, I talk about assistive engines, but they're agents already, because you say to ChatGPT, I need this, that, or the other, and it will go out on the web and find the stuff for you and bring it back. So it's actually acting on your behalf already. So agents are AI that act on your behalf, and they're acting and getting the information. As we move forwards, they're going to act more and more, and you're going to have to think less and less as a user.
Or think differently.
Yeah. You need to be very clear about what it is you're trying to achieve. And if you are very clear about what you're trying to achieve, the machine will do the hard work for you. We're all going to get very lazy. And it's already started last month, Cloudflare, Stripe, and a couple of others released agential infrastructure where agents can buy for you.
And we're for you.
Yeah, they've already done $50 million in business where the agent will click on the buy button and make a purchase for you. So you say, I want a baseball cap. And you give it what you call it, I think it's a manifest. You give it permission to make the purchase for you. You say, I'm willing to spend $10. And you set it off. It knows what kind of baseball cap you're looking for. And it will go and negotiate with multiple sites for you and bring you back the hat that you like at the best possible price. And it will click the button and buy. That's where we're going.
That's insane. Where's the world going to end? So I love it.
Well,
we just got to, the thing is just not to be afraid of this, but to be creative around this.
I think we also need to be realistic. And I think when I say that, everyone goes, ooh, sorry, agents are going to do all the purchases. And that's completely false. Because there are some purchases you would never allow a machine to make for you, like your wedding. Something that's emotional, you're not going to let a machine make an emotional decision for you. We're going to keep that. And then there are old people who never change the way they work. They're going to stick to Google search the rest of their lives because that's what they know and that's what they like. Always going to have people who are still using search who don't want to use AI or use it minimally. You've got people who want to always have control of the decision, not always, but for specific types of decision. And then you're going to have people who are going to let the agent go and make the decision for you. So low stakes purchases are typically going to go to agents, at which point, as a business, you need to figure out how you get the agent to come to you and how you win the negotiation with other websites with a machine that never actually talks to anybody.
There will be an opposite AI to manage that as well, fighting AI.
And it's already in place. It's already happening. It's just starting now, and things move forward very quickly. But I think we need to prepare ourselves for that kind of multi-situation world of search, human intervention, human decision, and agential decision.
One thing is for sure, that if you want to succeed and have business operating and functioning, you need presence. And that's the conversation that we started today, is that you need to be able to get your voice and name out there and understanding the mechanics of creating good creative content that's uniquely yours and putting it into a place where it can be searched and indexed so that you're training the algorithms to be able to recognize who you are and what you're doing. And as you said, creating clarity in your business and having real clear outcomes on how you're doing, having that whole message niche so that it's specifically and uniquely yours in a tight market. All these things that you've been speaking about today are really the tool foundations to creating leverage in this whole new world that's noisy, as we say. And who knows where this all takes us into the future. It's really interesting. We could debate on these topics and subjects for ages and hours.
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying this conversation with you today, Jason. Thank you so much for spending time with me. One last word before you go. What advice would you give to people right now about their businesses and what they should be thinking and planning for into the future?
I think if you walk away from this with one thing you should do, and it's actually something I haven't talked about at all, it's, are you organized? Look at your website, look at your business, look at yourself. How organized are you? Do you know what you're trying to say? Do you have all the details of what you're selling? Do you know how you sell it? Do you know how you serve your clients? Is it organized and visible online? If the answer is no, get it organized, because that's where the key is. If it's organized, you can face anything in the future. If it's not organized, you're going to go under.
Very important, powerful words. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Barnard, and today we'll be putting all the links that he shared in the show notes today. You can jump ahead and go and see. You have a tool and resource that you were talking about. Tell us a little bit about that quickly.
We have an AI audit, kalicube.com/AI- and free guides, kalicube.com, kalicube.com/guides. So you can download the guides, you can do all this yourself. You can take the AI audit and figure out exactly what AI thinks about you and where you're positioned compared to your competition. Go ahead and do that. It gives you a good starting point to understand where you're starting from. And then from there, you use the guides, organize yourself, have empathy for the machine, help it do its job. The more you help it, the more you train it, the more it will serve you, the more it will reward you.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jason. We will talk to you again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. That was brilliant, Matthew. Thank you.